My name is Pamela Petrilla, the Executive Director here at the Jefferson County Prevention and Recovery Board, who has provided this video. We hope that these inspirational videos provide you a new look into the epidemic of heroin.
His death certificate said multiple drugs were found in his system.
At the age of 28 years old, I hit rock bottom.
It starts with depression. It starts with a bad home life. It starts with alcoholism or a tragedy in the family.
You may think you're getting heroin and you're getting a heroin fentanyl mix, and the dosage is so much more potent.
I've been clean 25 years now. Back in my active using days, I used to snort a little bit. I never shot, but my friends did. I would help them, of course, to get what I needed, which is the crack, the speedball.
I've been in law enforcement for going on 12 years now, and it's gotten much worse. This is an epidemic that's continuing to get worse, it seems like, year after year.
Well, it seems that most people start off on prescription drugs. Somewhere along the line, they've gotten entangled with prescription drugs for whatever reason. And that usually leads to needing something to get that extra buzz, that extra little kick. I think the biggest thing with heroin users, when they decide to get to the point where they want to put a needle in their arm, they've given up all hope. They've kind of decided that there's nothing else I want. I really don't care what happens to me. I just want to have that good feeling. And when they get to that point, if we haven't done something to stop them by then, that's where we start to lose people.
I believe that clients, until they are ready for intervention, they are going to continue to use IV drugs until they are ready to stop.
They're always searching for another high. Once they reach a certain level, then they go on to our next. I honestly believe that.
It doesn't just affect the user, it's a mom or a dad, a brother or sister, some kind of family member that gets affected by this. And it's not good, They deal with the pain every day. I've talked to a lot of people that's family members. How can you help? What can we do to help? Then it becomes a problem in your neighborhood. You're breaking into cars because you need that next fix. You don't have any money, you start stealing. It's a trickle-down effect that's terrible.
But it took a toll on my life. It beat me up physically, mentally, man.
I have students tell me that they can buy heroin easier than a pack of cigarettes. You have to get ID to get a pack of cigarettes. If you have the money, no one checks your ID to buy heroin.
We have seen an increase in heroin use at our agency for several years, and preventative services do not seem to be in need for patients when they are using intravenous drugs. And we want to encourage all clients to maintain their preventative services, but it's not always a priority.
Then you started noticing the change in his friends, change in appetite, habits, staying out longer, not being so close with family as he would normally be.
It only takes one time. Don't think that, you may want to try this thing just to fit in with your peers or whatever the case may be. It only takes one time. It really does. And then that one time can send your life into a frenzy that you never even thought it could be. So yeah, or die. Or die. I've lost a lot of friends. Even left today, as I'm sitting here, touched my heart. I got a call this morning. My client OD'd last night and died. She did too much heroin.
As much as I hate to say it, drug dealers are crafty, and they'll do whatever they can to make an extra buck. So they'll get the fentanyl and cut it with the heroin. And you haven't, as a user, you have no idea.
An injection seems to be the most typical overdose. The method of overdose is by injection. And part of the problem you run into is when people purchase the heroin and decide to distribute it, a lot of the studies have shown that the better heroin dose you have, the more sales you'll make. So it actually, when a dealer decides to make a hot dose, people hear about it and they hear how strong that heroin was, and it makes the demand for that heroin much higher. So injecting that overdose, that 1 in 50, makes people desire it because they think it's a better drug.
The complications that we see from heroin use in our facility are the increased number of positive hepatitis C results that we are getting on our clients.
He had been in treatment just once. It was hard getting him into treatment. I happened to get a phone call one night when he was pretty out of it. And I went to his apartment and I brought him home. And the next day, I arranged for him to go into Trinity, inpatient. But he was only in there overnight. He signed himself out. And nothing we could do. He wasn't pink slipped. He wasn't court ordered.
I learned that I needed help. I believe at some point when you caught up in that addiction, like nothing matters. Like I can understand. Like you really want to get clean. You really do. But then again, in the back of your mind, you don't. You can't do this alone. You need a sponsor. You need support groups. You need people. Not the people that I party with, but those people in recovery. That made the difference for me.
Family members, it doesn't just affect the user. It's a mom or a dad, a brother or sister, some kind of family member that gets affected by this. And it's not good. They deal with the pain every day. I've talked to a lot of people. I mean, you don't know what you're getting. It's heroin. You could get the fentanyl. You don't know how pure the heroin is. So all it takes is that one injection, and it could be your last. And that's not a good thing. You could be dead. One of the struggles with this job, it's difficult enough, but having to go tell a loved one, whether it be a mom or a dad or whatever, that their child or relative, they've overdosed and died. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to tell, and then tell someone that they've passed away.
So oftentimes, once these drug abusers have passed away and their families come in to make the arrangements with us, the one elephant in the room that we have to talk about is their finances and what services they want, how they're going to pay for those. And oftentimes, the users have exhausted all of their assets to get the drugs and to get that next high. So then we have to sit across the table from their loved ones and find out what monies are left available to even pay for the services. Oftentimes, most of the money has been spent either trying to get them help, or if the family member has given the loved one the money to get the help or to buy food or some basic necessity, they've gone and they've spent it on more drugs.
It's hard not to get burnt out when you keep going back to the same houses over and over, and that's what we see on our end. I hear a lot of people tell me that they get tired of going back to the same houses, but yet we do it. That's our job. It's very unfortunate. But when you get tired of doing it, you have to look at the family next to them and the people who care about them. I had a student who 3 weeks ago would have told you that she didn't care if someone overdosed on heroin. And then 2 weeks after that, her cousin OD'd. And her attitude on addiction and heroin and using, the medications we used, giving the Narcan, all of a sudden changed her aspect. She felt that Narcan was necessary, and she got a different perspective.
He was at a concert, so it's hard to tell what all he was taking that. But it makes me believe maybe fentanyl, because the friend that he was with and went to the concert with, the friend also died that same night. They were both found the next morning. So that's why I feel it was fentanyl that took them both instantly, because neither one of them could help the other. Once the one was, I think they both died, probably about the same time, because there was no resuscitation. There was no reaching out for help.
We do see some girls who are prostituting for money, for drug use. When clients that access our care are addicted, it does affect their quality of life. Their health care is not a priority. They are more concerned about getting that next fix to get through the day.
Well, I've seen a lot of first timers. I've seen a lot of ODs the first time. I've seen a lot of deaths the first time. And I think what people fail to realize is that a lot of times addicts can put a dose up in their arm, not even knowing the first time how much to take, and they're out, they're gone. Seen it. It's sad.
It's getting worse by the year, it seems like. And unfortunately, unless we get a handle on it, and that's everybody working together with education, prevention, there's not going to be an end.
We may be a little more shocked than them when we get the phone call that someone that young has passed away and the emergency services are bringing that body to us. And I'm sure the parents and the other loved ones and family members are shocked as well. But I think buried deep down in the back of their mind, they knew one day they were going to get that phone call, and it's a phone call that they would certainly dread as well.
I've been on a few heroin calls, and the hard part for that is when the family's screaming. They're screaming for you to do something, and you're doing CPR or you're pushing Narcan, and you're doing everything you can for them, and having the family scream and yell and be upset. And it's very obvious usually that there's been a problem in the past, and if it's a relapse, it's even harder because they had that glimmer of hope that the person was never going to do this again, and then they end up doing it again, and it breaks up a lot of lives when someone overdoses.
The increase of positive hepatitis C patients that we see is about 40 to 50% based on lab results that we get back to us from our agencies.
It's just always reaching for the next high. He would get immune to the one he was on, and it was just never enough.
You become a zombie to it.
All it takes is once, and it's got you.
We do find a lot of evidence of drug use with these patients that are brought in.
It's slowly getting closer and closer to us.
We do find some instances where there are track marks, there are still needles left in the body bag, there are baggies of drugs still in the pocket.
They are very concerned about their infectious disease status. Some do express concern about infecting others.
Because I honestly believe he did not want to live that way. No one wants to live that way.
It's not going to ever go away. But we have to keep fighting. We have to keep going to a higher level of care for this disease because it's that real.
We need to get these people some treatment. They need to get help. Talk to somebody, see a counselor, talk to someone that can get you down the right path to the road to recovery. First, the addicts have to want to help themselves. That's the number one thing.
Sometimes we can get there and we can save the person, and sometimes we get there and it's too late.
That a user doesn't realize is once they passed away and we've had the services and the coroner finishes his report on that death certificate, and then it becomes then now a legal document and a public document, and we go and we get those copies from the health departments where they're placed on record, and we give them to the family. It will say right on that death certificate what in fact was in their system at the time of death. So as much denial is out there, that those parents are still denying that this death even occurred, it becomes all the more real when they read that death certificate and see those final results of the death, that they were caused by the drugs.
My hopes for a needle exchange program would be to lower the hepatitis C statistics in our county since it is on the rise. It's needed, very much needed, and with a needle exchange program, I think it could help a lot of people.
Well, we definitely need a residential drug treatment in our area. We need something where people can afford to send their kids to drug addiction rehabilitation. It's very expensive.
We have to be careful of how we describe or analyze the disease of addiction. It is truly a deadly disease.
If you're a user, don't be afraid to ask someone for help. There's plenty of help out there. Don't be a statistic. Get some help. Don't be embarrassed. You need to get help, or you could end up dead.
I get tired of hearing everybody say that there's going to be one simple fix for heroin addiction. There's not. It's so many different things have to come together. There are several parts that need to come together. Better healthcare system, better mental health care system, better child welfare systems. You have kids who are out on the street and they're not being watched, or their parents are addicts and they have nowhere to turn. So we need to do more from many aspects, not just one thing.
I guess the solution is education and getting assistance out there. I think it has to start early. It has to start in the schools, the mentoring programs. The children that come from broken families or broken homes are more susceptible to the drug scene or to fall into the drug scene. The unemployed,
So I think the advocacy part of it, as far as getting out there, staying in front of it, if you have someone that you know that needs the help, getting them the help they need, I think that's the first step.
Our agency could offer education for those clients, first and foremost, and then accessing preventative health care.
But when they're teenagers, you know, you've got to keep up on things. You've got to be a part of their life. You can't just let them go and believe that they're going to where they're telling you. You never know once they get past your driveway where they're headed. So I guess, you know, just to be a family unit and have a caring, loving family.
All of our services are utilized to the max, from preventative wellness visits to pregnancy testing to sexually transmitted infection testing. Our services are well utilized.
Oftentimes, we have friends and even dealers of the loved one that has passed away that will come in and pay their respects, and they'll sit in the back of the funeral home during that entire visitation process and throughout the funeral process. And it's always that mother or father's hope that the message gets broadcast to all of them that this is where you're going to end up if this doesn't stop. And 9 times out of 10, they leave the funeral home and they still feel like they're untouchable. It's not going to happen to them, even though they just might have buried their best friend.
We have to do more training and educating. When we educate ourselves, when we educate our students, when we educate, you know, our providers, we want to make sure they understand, where is this person coming from? Why did they end up where they are? Don't lose your compassion as much as sometimes you think you're going to. You're there to help people, and that's what we do, and that's what we'll always do.
We need to get out there and talk to people, get to the kids early, let them know, you know, you can't sugarcoat it. It's an epidemic, and we need to get everyone on board with how bad it is, and we need to get people educated on this effects and the help that's out there.
Anybody walking this street here that needs some help with addiction, I'm here. That's what my cause is.